One of the problems with being out of the box, right, is not being normal with society, is that there's no easy solutions, right? When you have a very, you got a job, you got to work, you got a salary, everything's very simple. As soon as you start to think about starting a company, things get confusing and there's no easy answers. It becomes there's less people to talk to and there's less easy solutions. Everything is like, well, I don't know. With a job, it's pretty simple. You get a job, you get a salary, you know how much it is. You basically know what the direction the company's going. Pretty easy solution, right? You know what's coming. And you can always get another job. So you got that kind of feeling. And that's the same thing with relationships. As soon as you say, I don't accept, let's say, the current situation. So you say, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. So it sounds very easy, right? I'm going to not do what society wants me to do. It's not that easy, because when those solutions are there for a reason, there is like wisdom and experience behind those. Now, maybe they don't no longer work because of a lot of, like obviously the legal system is one of the biggest reasons in Western countries. And I want to be clear about that. Not every country has a family court system. There's a big difference between countries with a family court system like the US and Canada and the UK and countries that don't. Very, very different risks. Very, very different environment. Because in those environments, outside of those countries, it's just basically you and her. Those are the dynamics, right? When you add the law in there, it really changes everything. Because even if you have a really good person, super sincere, they have a nuclear weapon at their disposal with the press of a button. And you know what happens with these type of things is temptation tends to get used, right? That's the problem. That's why you don't want everybody with an AK-47 walking down the street, because every time there's a disagreement, people just pull the trigger, right? Especially if you could do it secretly or whatever. But anyway, because you're not accepting what's normal, right? You need to start thinking about what else is going to come up or what other options are going to happen. And you have to think about them, like, are they good, right? So one of the most common kind of alternatives, I would say, that you hear about is open relationships. And I've had a lot of actually Ronin guys, they ask me about open relationships. And, and I want to say, I am not very pro them, but it's not that I'm not pro sexuality. I want to tell you the real dynamics at play, and then you can tell me what you think, right? How you want to use this knowledge, right? How it fits into your life. Let me break it down. There's different aspects to an open relationship. Okay, so one way of looking at it is you are a guy's on a dating app and he looks at a profile and the girl says, I'm in an open relationship. That's one aspect. The other one would be, I'm looking for an open relationship. And the other aspect would be, if you're dating somebody and then you've been dating for a while and then they say, I want to do an open relationship, right? And then there's the more subtle ones where you find an opportunity to have a sexual experience with somebody else. So, you guys are at a music festival, you're in a tent, there's another girl there, and your girlfriend's like looking over, not looking too worried about her doing stuff or seeing stuff. That's another aspect of quote unquote open relationships. So I want to say first is that your actions have serious consequences. And so you really want to have very conservative guys tend to think, I wouldn't want an open relationship. I couldn't handle it or whatever. And then guys that are very experienced, and this is really one of the traps of an experienced guy, is they tend to think, I should accept an open relationship, or I should be open-minded to it, right? Because they've done so much other stuff. They think, this is one of those other things that, you kind of get used to breaking the rules, and you're like, okay, I will break the rules with this one. But do you really know what you're getting into? Do you really know the dynamics at play? What are the dynamics? That's the main thing. Why would someone bring it up? What are the long-term, short-term effects of it, right? The other aspect of the other thing that might come up is you are somewhere and a couple tells you that they're in an open relationship, or a girl at work tells you she's in an open relationship, and you're the outside guy, right? So she's in one, and she's basically saying she's open to doing it with you. I guess I'll start with that one because that's the first one I mentioned, not the most important one, but I wouldn't go for it. I'm not into it. If a couple has an open relationship, and you'll see in the dynamics here, it's very complicated. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Things like open relationships are not like buildings or mountains. They are often just passing thoughts or temporary agreements based on lack of knowledge, or even based on bullying, where one person really pushed for it, right? And the other one didn't really agree, but they did, right? So when a girl tells you she's in an open relationship, you basically should think this to yourself, is would I do it with this married woman if she was happily married? Because if you wouldn't do it, then don't do it, quote unquote open relationship. Why? Well, the first thing is she could be lying. Very common, actually, is that women, I know this is a shock to you guys, is that a woman would tell someone it's not true. When a woman wants to step out of a relationship, she knows that good guys don't need to go in and ruin a relationship, right? Guys that don't get much action, they are desperate and they're going to do all kinds of compromises that they wouldn't be proud of, right? The more options the guy has, the less he's going to compromise his values sexually, right? So a girl will tell a guy, like if she thinks you're a good guy, she will say, oh, I'm in an open relationship. And the reason is because usually there's some kind of shred of truth to it. So they might have had this discussion, or he might have said he's open to it at some point, but don't, at the very least, ask a lot of questions. Don't just assume that this is like a certain type of thing that you haven't really thought about, right? It might be less real than you think. And it might be totally false too. Like they might not be an open relationship at all. You might be screwing this guy's wife who is totally in love with her, who's given everything to her. And she's just having a 7-year itch. And you are now at the mercy of whatever kind of retribution this guy is going to bring down on you. Because usually or commonly, I would say it does happen, is that a woman will cheat with a guy, lie to him that she's in an open relationship, so we're not having sex or whatever it is. It's some reason why the relationship doesn't work, and that there's like this kind of unspoken agreement that they can both step out. Don't believe those things. Not that they're never true. I'm just saying, like, guys tend to totally swallow these things like a fish. You see a piece of meat hanging on a hook and you're like, food, And I don't want to say thirsty. I just want to say, like, it is very attractive. Okay. Don't get me wrong. It's like a woman who is in a situation where the guy really doesn't care, or the guy encourages it, or whatever, sexually, it's very attractive. You can just go and you'll be with her, and let's say she's pretty, and you're like, whoa, this is like amazing. Like, no, not having to pay any cost here, but I'm getting a lot of benefits, right? So that's one thing, but always dig beneath the surface before you get into another relationship. I mean, really think about it. I'm not saying don't do it. Okay, I am not saying that. I'm just saying, like, everything I said there. Doubt, question, think about it, feel your feelings. Like, is she telling the truth? Is it only you? So, for example, like, here's another, like, very unattractive type of situation, is a girl will say she's in an open relationship, right? And she is, okay, she's openly having sex with lots of guys. Not so different than a sex worker, really. In fact, sometimes even more dangerous than a sex worker, because sex workers, they tend to be pretty tight with, using protection. Whereas someone in an open relationship, they still think of themselves as in a relationship. And so there's a lot of shenanigans going on and dangers and risks being taken and emotional decisions that not very medical, not very scientific, right? And again, like, it's very easy for a woman who's a sex worker to make a very rational decision, like condoms all the time, right? Whereas, as you know, like, it's in this type of scenario, it's more of an emotional decision and it's more of a heat of the moment thing. So, fucking condoms and forget about it, right? If the guy's really hot, like, just trust me, like, she ain't gonna ask for a condom, right? So you're having sex with somebody who very likely has a bunch of diseases, including, things that you can catch easily, like herpes, stuff like that. So in these open relationships, diseases like herpes are very common. AIDS is not so common. So don't worry. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, put it in perspective, like, annoyances are common. I feel so lucky I never got anything permanent. I'm so glad. I really feel lucky in my life. I got so lucky. But it's something to think about, because you're dealing with an unknown here. Open relationships are a lot less, quote unquote, regulated than you might think. Like, you really don't know what they mean. Like, even getting past the fact is it even consensual to her husband? Like I said, she might be just outright fooling the guy, right? And the other thing is, even if it is consensual, you as the new guy have no idea what they've done in the past. But it's very important to know what they did in the past, because there are people in relationships, I mean, definitely, I can tell you without a doubt, where the girls had sex with literally thousands of guys, and sometimes like large groups, because it turns the guy on, so you have, and the thing is, if her boyfriend is very, he's that type, right? It turns him on to watch her get gangbanged or something. Then, okay, here's the danger. Here's the reason. Like I said, there's a big difference between sex workers and and just girls in open relationships. But the other difference is, let's say, I want to compare two women here. One is in an open relationship with a guy who loves to watch, and there's another one where the girl's on her own. She's single. She's having sex with guys, and just, like, people would often call her, derogatory names because she sleeps with a lot of guys, because that type of woman, right? Don't want to use the word because YouTube's getting pretty sensitive. But those two people, let's compare those two people. Actually, the more dangerous one, which one's the more dangerous? The more dangerous is by far the girl in the relationship. By far. Because just like a sex worker, a girl who really sleeps around, she's going to, at some point, she's not really that different from an unpaid sex worker, really. She's going to start to be careful, because she'll start getting diseases, right? And then she's like, ooh, I don't like this. It's painful. And it's lonely. You go into a doctor to get a VD taken care of by yourself, and the doctor comes out and you feel embarrassed, and it's really not a pleasant experience. And so these girls, a lot of them, they're like, the more experience they get, the more they tend to be a little careful with that kind of stuff. Now, but in relationships, it's different. I can tell you this for sure. 100%, because I was that third guy. I had a lot of experience with that. And the reason why it's different is because when the man, her man gives her permission to do something, there's something, and this is just my observation, but in her brain that says, I'm totally safe. Maybe it's because the guy's there. Maybe it's because, it's so unexpected. She has this refreshing feeling that she's allowed to do whatever she wants. So her usual, I guess, maybe this is what it is the shaming of society is not there anymore. Like, the guy actually enjoys it. So her feeling of, a lot of the reasons why girls don't have sex a lot is because they don't want to be downgraded sexually, right? They want to have high value, right? They think, logically, it's because of disease or pregnancy, but actually a more powerful motivator for women is that losing your value in society, right? You see that's a very, so a woman whose husband allows her to do that, it exposes the lie that women will not have sex because of disease or pregnancy. Actually, most of the reason why women are in line in modern society or out of line is social pressure. social pressure, and men too, social pressure is amazingly powerful. You cannot, like, I'll tell you, it's so powerful, you cannot fucking believe it. In Japan, it's very, for many, well, for millennium, it was very socially acceptable to be fat for a woman. Very socially unacceptable. And because of that, you could call it bullying or whatever, society or whatever it is, women were skinny. And there was some point, I don't know what year it was, I'm thinking it's around 2008, where suddenly you started to see famous people, actresses, that were overweight and proud of it. And there was an explosion of obesity in Japan after that. And I knew this from the beginning. I knew because in Japan, like, I remember, like, girls that were pretty damn skinny that I knew, like foreign girls, they would go shopping for clothes, and the girl that works there would say, no, too fat. Like, it was like, they just said it. Like, it was like, they didn't have any shame at all because, I guess their environment was they worked really hard and they would have been shamed, right? So when they saw the foreign woman who was over, they just thought, well, too fat, and they kind of thought, well, I'm going to do my job here at part of society and keep her in line, right? And then the foreign girls, it was like, what? They had never heard this before. Too fat, like you go shopping for clothes and the lady that works there tells you you're too, like, that was like blew me. I know girls that told me this, like they were in Japan. They had a huge shock when they went shopping for clothes. And the store clerk told them they're too fat. They could not believe it. It was just like, whoa. And I could not believe it too. But that was when it got me thinking about this and studying this, right? So social pressure is like huge, right? So once that's gone, and again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying I'm pro or against, because it actually is pretty complex. Because people should be able to do what they want and use their own willpower to get their goals. I don't need a trainer spitting on me and yelling at me to get in shape. I have the motivation inside myself, so I tend to not like those type of situations. So for me, social pressure is not something I think is that important for me because I have the ability to discipline myself and go after my own goals. So that's why I don't like, you know what I mean? But like for weak members of society or people on that side of the bell curve, on a certain issue, and I might be on that issue, some issue, I might be on, social pressure side, but in general, it's not a big thing for me because I do really do my own thing. But social pressure, once that's off, you cannot believe how bad it can get because women are just so attractive to men. Like they're just, because open relationships tend to be pretty women. That's another thing I've noticed. Tends to be a more attractive women. I don't know. It's interesting, actually, now that I think about it. That's actually a key point. Open relationship girls tend to be above the norm. I'll say that. So you got a girl who's above the norm. She's in a relationship. No more social pressure. Her husband actually enjoys it, encourages it, wants her to do more, wants to hear about it. That can set off a nuclear fire of unprotected sex that really can have some pretty serious consequences. So you don't know that as the guy. That's the thing, is you're looking into a situation where it's unclear. You can't see through the window. You don't know what's in there. But in order to make a smart decision, you got to know what's in that window. So that's why it's very unattractive for me, because I know this stuff. I know the dynamics here. It's very let me just say one thing, because people might get confused, actually. I had sex with girls and that were married and the husbands approved it. Okay, did. But I did not, here's the subtle distinction. I did not, what do you call it? There are certain terms you can use. Okay, swingers, open relationship. You can use these terms to search, to find people that are already doing these things. And in the beginning, I was with the times that I did it, it was the first time for people. They had never done it before. I put up an ad that I didn't even know I was doing this, but I put up an ad that was attractive for people who had never done it before and wanted to try it. And those were the kind of people that came to me, and they were very nervous, and it was the first time, and I would say it was very fresh, and it was a very interesting experience, very interesting. It wasn't the answer to life, though, guys. It was just like, I did it for a while, and I got bored of it, to be honest. But I guess the key thing was I was dealing with people who had never done it. When you start using keywords and key terms, you're dealing with people who they do it all the time. They're like professionals. I'm serious, like open relationships and like this whole, all these terms that people use on the internet. I don't want to use them right now on the video, but they are like standardized and homogenized. McDonald's. People are doing this shit all the time. Like couples that do this, man, you would not believe how much action they get. Like action is just going down all the time. 5 guys, 3 guys, 2 guys, guy in the park, guy in the bath. It is fucking happening until they get bored of it because it's so attractive to single guys or married guys. Because like, oh, I can just get some, no problem. Girl's attractive, done. Right? No one's thinking like me. Like, you know, one of the advantages to having choice of women and having a lot of women interested in you is you don't have to take every, you know, like crappy meal you get. You can say, oh, I'm not going to eat this. You know, I'll wait till later, right? You know, and that's a huge advantage that I had because I always had choice. I'm like, nah, you know, I mean, of course it, you know, is interesting, right? You know, I actually had a sex cult approach me one time in Tokyo. It was called The Family. And I was in Harajuku. We had a band. I was a terrible drummer, but I think a lot of it was because, long story, the band. But I was there. We played our like thing in the street there. You know, it was like in the street people play music on Sunday, right? So we played music, and then I finished. I was like wandering around, and there was this big stage, and it was like all pretty girls. Like they were very pretty, actually, super attractive, foreign girls. A lot of them were like mixed race and stuff. They were just like all different kinds of races. And so anyway, they were like very attractive and dancing sexy. So I remember it was like the sun was going down. It was maybe 5, 6 o'clock. And I was standing there. And then the girls kind of came and surrounded me. And they were very close to me. And they were very attractive. So I was like, what the heck is this? You know, I kind of couldn't figure it out. Like what was going on here? Because it didn't make sense. Like why would all these sexy, you know what I mean? Like I know my level of attractiveness. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not nothing and it's not unlimited, right? It's the bell curve, right? I know the balance, right? I know what's weird, right? When someone's trying to do something that is weird, I can feel it. And something was weird. So I'm like, I said, what exactly is this? And the girl, she like literally almost started like licking my tongue. She goes, and she was like she was one of the more attractive ones. She goes, we're a sex cult. And I was like, you know, I'm confident, I had a lot of experience. I was very active sexually at the time. And so I just said, hey, I said, you know, most guys would have just been right in their arms. I'm telling you, it was sexy. Okay, I'll tell you that. Like, even though I'm not, you know, like I was definitely hard. I was like, ooh, fuck. These girls were super hot. And the way they enveloped me was also very professional. Like these girls were recruiters for this cult. And that's what their job was. They're called fishing or fishers or something. There's a word they had in that cult. I had no idea about any of this at the time. Later on, I figured it out. But I knew something was wrong. That part I knew. And also I knew I had tons of girls. So I was going to be sleeping with some girl in like a couple of hours. I was going to go to my meeting and go home and fuck this girl. So I was like, I didn't need that. You know, and I had probably had sex. It was Sunday, so probably had sex on Saturday. I wasn't super thirsty. I'm like, anyway, I kind of like, even though it was attractive, so that's the balance there, right? And I said something wrong. So anyway, I said, okay, so straight up, like, what do you girls do? Like, if I go with you, are we gonna like, am I gonna like gangbang all of you girls? And the girls are like, yes. And that was surprising to me too, because sometimes girls will say things like, we're in a sex cult, or we're gonna do this. But when you ask them like a cold, hard up question, that's when they back off. They're like, it depends, this and that. And now, at this point, I had already decided there's no way I was going to do it. I was not going to do it. But I wanted to know how far this thing went. I'm a very curious person. I'm like, something's going on here. What the fuck is going on here? So I said to the girls, like, I don't remember the exact words, but basically I was very, very straight, which I know is not attractive. I wasn't trying to be attractive. I was like, I want to find out. Like, I'm ready to burn this thing down. I don't care. And the girls are like, yes. I'm like, so all you girls right here. And they're like, yep, group sex with all of us. And I was like, wow, damn, they said it straight up. I was like, whoo, that is attractive for a lot of guys, trust me. Very, very attractive. Now, cults are just can just ruin your life. And of course, I didn't know it was a cult at the time. But I left, and I was like, sorry, girls, you girls are, really attractive. I'd love to do it, but I got to do some stuff, and just left. And then they didn't care. They were like, these girls were professionals, actually. I found out later they had, I didn't talk to these girls, but I studied the cult a little bit. There's a site called Rick Ross. Rick Ross has a site with, I don't know if he still has it, but he used to have a site with all the cults and all of what they're about. So I had looked up this cult, the family, and I had looked up their way they do things and everything. And I had found out that there was a very good possibility that these girls were actually daughters of cult members and had been raised in the cult, and their whole job was to bring in new members, fish new members in, have sex with them, bring them into the cult, right? And, they were like, almost like military. They were like, you ever hear about the Khmer Rouge and stuff in Cambodia? Why it was so bad is a lot of the soldiers were 12 years old. They're very young. They didn't understand that death was permanent. Like, they were so young. They were just totally brainwashed. Totally evil things happen when you brainwash a kid from birth, right? And these girls had been, that I guess that's what they thought their job was, to basically bring guys in. And they were not shy about it. They were going to tell you straight up, and they were going to do what they said. Now, of course, the purpose is not going to be good for you. But anyway, so here's another type of kind of, I guess, similar to open relationships, and actually very similar, actually. Yeah, it's an aspect of open relationships, I guess. It's an alternative sexuality that might be presented to you, right? Always keep your wits about you. And that's one of the reasons why it's good to have options. Because if you don't, you can get weak. I remember thinking, like, at that time, man, if I wasn't with so many girls right now, man, this would be, I don't think I would have done it at any time in my life, actually. I've always had control. That's one thing about a guy who knows he has options. You have this sense of control. I've always looked down on and disrespected, in my mind, guys who don't have choice and control. Because if you don't have control, I can't trust you. You know what I mean? Because what are you going to do? What are you going to do when the chips are down? I know what I'm going to do. And I know what I won't do. And it's very clear. And I don't care how big the challenge is. I know what I'm going to do sexually in any situation. And that is a something that I can offer to you as a friend. There's no surprise with me. You leave your girlfriend with me for 2 weeks, naked on the beach, in an island with nobody there. I am not going to fuck her. Like, I do not care. I literally don't care how hot she is, how much she comes on to me. Like, I just have never done it. Not even once. Not even when I was drinking. Like, I never, ever did it. I just would never do that to a friend. And I look totally different than guys who do this to their friends. Like, I really do. Even if you kind of are born again about this, I don't trust you as much as I trust a guy who's never done it. Certain guys I trust more on this topic. And having choice is one of those things that gives you power to be trusted, because you know you don't have to. The less choice you have, the more you need willpower. So I'll give you an example of a guy I trust that doesn't have choice, is Racer Bill. Racer Bill is he's a MGTOW monk. He's a good friend of mine. He would never, ever do it. I know this guy. This guy is consistent as a fucking rock, as a lighthouse. This guy is like one of the most consistent guys you ever meet. And so I would trust, even though Racer Bill does not actively pursue women at all, in any way. I mean, he's got a good job. He's a good-looking guy. He could totally have girls, like no problem. But that's it. He does not. And so he's one of these exceptions where he's probably more reliable than any guys I know. Like, there's no way. I would say he's as reliable as me. Like, I just wouldn't do it. And Bill's the same way. And that's why I trust Bill. I'm like, I like that about Bill. I really do. I'm not like, just because I'm a certain way, I don't judge people because they're like me or not. I judge them based on that kind of like something different, and that's that core. What is the core of them? Not what are the details. And I can trust Bill. Bill is trustworthy. And that is a beautiful thing. And if there's one thing you get out of this, is be trustworthy. Like, be trustworthy to other men when sexuality comes up, open relationships. And it's very complicated. Okay, it's so complicated. It is so complicated. I had to really tell you what that means, given my background, would take a long time. And when I maybe I will lay it down in some future episode, and you will be like, holy shit, he's totally right. Is it all fits together. There is a philosophy that is like rock solid for me. And I will not cross certain lines. And other lines I just go right over because they're not my lines. I don't consider them important because I know more of the dynamics, what's going on. A lot of guys, they don't know the dynamics, so they won't do something or they will do something, right? I know the dynamics, so I can make a decision consistent with the way I feel about life, right? So I think that's the ultimate goal in sexuality. It's not so much, should you do this? Should you do that? It's more like you want to have enough understanding of the dynamics of everything. So you're making smart decisions based on your true north. Like what is the direction that you feel is you should go. And if you understand, don't trust guys that don't know all the dynamics because they might be really strong, right? They might be really decisive. They might have made a decision to be like this or like that, or Christian or Muslim, whatever it is. But those things can be changed. Those things people can slip on those kind of things. But once you really know who you are and your dynamics, I'm telling you, it becomes super clear in your mind where you know exactly what you're going to do because it's like, I can't tell you how, that's why I say don't follow me or follow another guy. You have to understand the dynamics of sex and then everything will be clear to you. You will know if you are a water dog or a desert dog or a hunting dog. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be in you. Don't worry. Just find out more about sex. Just find out more. Always find out more. And you will be like, oh my gosh, I'm a hunting dog, right? Or whatever. That's your goal, is to find out all the dynamics. Forget being disciplined. Forget being righteous. Forget being, you know what I mean, doing the right thing. Find out what kind of dog you are. That is so important. Once you know all the dynamics of sex and the way it really works, your true nature will be so fucking obvious. You won't need discipline because you'll be like, oh, this is what I am. Here's what I do. This is what I got from nature or God or whatever. Like this is just like a dog. You know, I had a friend who had a sheep herder dog. The dog used to push me around the room. He would just not let me, he'd walk the way I wanted to walk. He'd come and just bump me and move me. They were heavy dogs too. He was in Suzhou in China near Shanghai. And he would just, that's what he did. He would like herd me around the room. He wouldn't let me go to the bathroom one way. I had to walk the other way. And I realized, first it bothered me. And then I realized, oh, he's a sheep herder. That's what they do. I thought it was just a name, you know. And the guy like literally jumps out like it's like there's an emergency going on if I walk the wrong way to the bathroom. Like literally, he'd jump up and just throw his weight into me to make sure I went around the table the other way. Because he was sure that this was the way to go. And he herded everybody in the house around the room. And, you know, you had to really appreciate that dog. Is he was really doing what he's supposed to do. That's that dog. That's his nature. You know, somebody said, you know, you have to have more control of your dog when I was walking. I understand training is so important for dogs. But I also understand that we have natures. And I really respect that. That dog's nature. It would have been crazy to try to penalize that dog. That dog could not do what he was doing. The only way you could get him not to do it would be to destroy his confidence. You know what I mean? Where he just is like a shivering mess. And that is like a saddest thing. People that do this kind of thing, I just despise them. I fucking despise them. So whether it's animals or you, okay, find the true north and respect those things. And life is so fucking easy at that point. No longer are you trying to be a certain way. You'll understand and you will just go the way that you know is you. And everything will fit together. Like really, like rock climbing. You get to the new handhold, maybe you haven't done it before, but you put the pieces together of what you should do for this one. You're like, ooh, I have to put my leg way out over there, you know. I got to get into a chimney, whatever it is, you know. It all becomes second nature because of who you are and what you're doing. Okay, so back to the open relationships directly. So why would so you're, let's say a guy's dating a girl or married to a girl, and she said, usually it's dating, and she says to him, Okay, you see, you're sitting there watching a movie or whatever. She comes to you, she's like, baby, what do you think about an open relationship? Okay, that situation. Let me hit that one. That one, no. Okay. No. Why? For me, why? What are the dynamics going on here? So basically, the girl is having a 7-year itch. She's not happy. And what she's doing is she is doing a tricky way of ending the relationship. That's what she's doing. So she is saying to you, like, I'm not happy sexually. Okay, I'm happy with everything else. So basically, as a beta, you're fine. But as a guy who really gets my box wet, you don't really do that. So I'm going to get another guy, and then you'll agree to it. I'll let you do whatever you want. And the reason why I'm okay with that is because even though I don't like it, I have to accept it if I want to stay with you. And you don't get my box wet anyway, so I can let that slide, right? So that's what she's telling you. So that's why that's why I would say that it's a very bad decision, because she's ending the relationship. That's what she's doing. She's saying, well, I shouldn't say that. There's two options, actually. One of it is that she's ending it. So she doesn't want to, a lot of girls, they don't want to say the difficult thing. They don't want to be uncovered for what they're really doing. You know, they'll push the guy to end the relationship, right? They'll really push, like really push. And again, I've talked about this. This is not a bad way to end a relationship. It's very complicated, but this is nasty, this one, because what happens is that she has no desire. Like, there are women who want to see you with another woman, or they care about you so much they want to see you fully satisfied, or I guess there'd be that type. I don't know. Not so common, but basically, what's under the surface of this one? That's what you got to find out. Usually, it's, I'm not happy. So what would I do? If the girl said that, I would say, I don't. And again, open relationship. Okay, she's not asking you, do you want an open relationship? What she's asking you is, do you want an open relationship with me? Okay, not with a new girl, not in a new circumstance, because I'm dissecting a lot of different situations, right? In this case, you are happy, and you're happy with the relationship, everything's good, and she says suddenly, hey, how about an open relationship? And what she's going to do, she's going to always present it the same way. She's going to say, did you ever want to have sex with another girl? And then that is the most dishonest thing she can ever do, because what she's doing, now, most of the time, because sometimes she really wants sex with another girl. Okay, that's possible. That's less terrible for you. Okay, it still is terrible. Okay, but it's less terrible. But the other way is usually they're giving you something so they can get what they want. So maybe they want to do with another girl, plus they want to bring in another guy. It's basically, there's a lot behind what she said. So what should you do if your girlfriend says, let's have an open relationship? What I would do is I would immediately go on high alert and find out what happened before that. So I'd say, before I answer that. Now, I don't think you need to do this. I think that it's pretty simple. You really have to end it. But don't kind of miss an opportunity to learn, because something's happened that you didn't know about. So I would say, before you leave the relationship, find out what happened. Find out, it's really important. Find out when her feeling changed and why. Who influenced her? Was it a girlfriend? Was it a book she read? Was it a movie she watched? Was it after a certain period of time? Was it because her girlfriend is in an open relationship? Was it because she never got off on you ever and she was lying about everything sexually? What is the reason? And I like to find out the day. I believe, okay, and I can tell you this as a very experienced sexual guy, is that women are very clear. And I believe, okay, this is interesting. I've never heard this before, but I believe this. And I always look back and try to find the day that she changed. I believe there's a specific day, and it might even be a second, where the woman decides, this is not working. I want something new. It's not a gradual process like people think. There are things that could influence her that could be gradual to other people, but actually they don't influence her. You know what I mean? It's like French fries. I don't eat French fries. I just don't. The only way, what would make me do it is if I was starving to death. Then I would definitely eat French fries, right? But unless that's happening, I ain't gonna eat French fries because I think they're unhealthy. Not that I don't like them, and I shouldn't say I do eat a couple once in a while, but I mean, I never order them, right? I'm not gonna, if it comes with something, it's hard to hold back totally. I might eat a couple and then I'll just be like, I just really don't like to eat shitty food. To me, it's just, that's one of those things I'm not into, right? But there's always a clear tipping point for things. So for me, it would be starvation, right? Or a tipping point is when I got some temptation just sitting in front of me on my plate and it's just like too hard. That's why I don't like to order it, because then it's not there. I can see it on someone else's plate, it doesn't bother me. But my plate, I know where the line is. If it's just looking at it forever, it's going to start to tempt me, right? Especially if they're good ones, like thick, like with the sweet potatoes and well-made ones. It's going to be tempting for me, right? So I don't do that because I know myself, right? I know the dynamics going on here. That's the same reason why I don't buy any shitty food in the house, except for things that I know I'm going to eat anyway, like chocolate. I'm going to eat chocolate no matter what. So that's okay because I'm going to eat it. It's just the way it is. That's the deal. I don't drink. I don't do any drugs. I might eat chocolate. I'm going to eat chocolate. It's just the way it is. That's my vice, So, right. So, let's see. I lost my train of thought there. But when did it change and what changed? Here's your opportunity. She's asking open relationship. Okay? So she's asking for a big thing. So this is your opportunity to find out what you did wrong. What changed that you didn't notice? Because by definition, you didn't notice that she changed. Your mind's going to rewrite it like, oh, I knew, I saw it. You didn't know. Find out why. Why didn't you know? When did it change? What affected her? Because when you get older, this is the wisdom, is finding out the exact reason. Don't be like these guys who are like, my girlfriend was crazy. That doesn't teach you anything. Not only that, there's no definition of crazy in any book of psychology. Like, what happened? Find out. Stop labeling. Find out what the fuck happened so that you don't do it again, so that you can learn, right? So in this case, you got a golden opportunity. In my mind, here's what I would think. I'd say, if any girl said this to me, this has never happened, by the way. Oh, a girl hinted at it, actually. Actually, one girl hinted at it. And I think that's what she meant. I could talk about that too. Sometimes girls will say it without saying it. But I would say one girl did hint at it, actually. And I consider that the same as saying it. Okay, so this is your golden opportunity. So what I would think is, okay, it's over. Because I'm not into it. If I had a girlfriend that I was just theoretically totally into, and let's say you're monogamous, and then she wants an open relationship, that bridge is a painful, meaningless bridge to cross. It is like for a man to go over that bridge, because you now know that you're not satisfying her, right? Now, you can't satisfy everybody. No one man, there's all these logical reasons, but emotionally it's super difficult. And by the way, every man has to accept this. I'm talking Chad Tyrone, every fucking guy. You could be the biggest fucking Chad or Tyrone in history. You could be like, literally, I'm serious. You could be like the most attractive guy sexually of all time. And girls will get bored of you. You will not be able to satisfy a woman forever. It's just, she'll eventually get bored of you. Whatever you got, it's like she's used to it now. That's it. She wants something new. So don't think that it's your inadequacies, because they didn't matter before. And for you guys that tend to get a lot of action, don't think that it couldn't end because it's a mistake. I learned this myself. Because for a while I thought, man, I really did. I seriously, like, when you fight 700 girls, like, you start to think, like, I can do anything. And there was some point when I realized, no, it's different, and I have to be super honest with myself. But no, you cannot satisfy the same girl forever. It ain't gonna happen. Women, just by definition, the whole thing about hypergamy, monkey branching, evolution, it's all real. And it's not even about what you have, it's about her nature. And I'm not saying you can't stay with her. Like, guys can stay with girls even though they're not sexually satisfied. Okay, I'm just talking about sexual satisfaction here. But you got to know the truth, right? They're not connected. Some relationships, they stick together and the girl doesn't cheat and the guy doesn't. You know what I mean? But he still knows. That guy still knows that he's not attractive. And that's the thing that kills Chad or Tyrone, is that he's not unlimited with this one girl. No matter how many girls, like say the rock star, right? He's a rock star. He's in his 60s and 70s and he's letting girls backstage. And there's all these fucking girls that are just begging to come in. The best scene in the movie was in The Wall. The girls who blow the security guard to get into the backstage. That is a great scene. You should watch that in Pink Floyd, The Wall. And that tells you the 60s, right? But even those guys that were so attractive, and you can see it in the movie too, is that the guy's not that attractive. It's just that they were very attracted until they got in there, and then they find out who he is. And then he might be attractive, he might not, right? But anyway, he's not like no longer is he some mythological creature, right? Especially this guy. So we all have to accept this. So don't be very careful. I don't know what else I can say, but be careful with your heart. Guys, whether you're the coolest guy ever or you're like the total fucking simp guy, be careful with your heart. I'm serious. Both type. Be careful with your heart. Your heart as a man. There's no other word to put it. I don't apologize. Be careful with your fucking heart, guys. Be careful. You can be crushed. You can be crushed. Totally destroyed by a woman. And I'm telling you, be very careful. It's like nothing else. Every guy can be crushed. And the way that you don't get crushed is by knowing that you could be crushed. Right? I guess it's like a fighter or something, You could be the best fighter in the world, but man, every professional fighter will tell you, man, could you beat that guy? He'll always say, well, probably, but there's always random stuff in a fight, right? And any experienced guy knows something weird could happen. He could slip. Something could go wrong. We're all vulnerable. If you get hit right in the glass jaw, or right in the throat, there's just certain things that we're all not invulnerable. We act like we are. We pretend like, like you might have a record of 65-0. It doesn't mean you're invulnerable, man. All it takes is no one's hit that point, right? No one's hit that spot. Everybody knows that. Mike Tyson, every fucking boxer knows that, right? So you got to know that as a man, is that every guy has that point. And if you let girls keep swinging at you forever, hundreds of girls keep swinging at you, and you don't protect your heart, believe me, some girl's going to hit it with an arrow. Trust me. And that is a very dangerous thing for a guy. And the more successful he was before, the more dangerous it is. That's my take. Guys that are used to getting destroyed, they kind of get used to it in many ways. They get kind of a thick skin. The guys that are used to success and getting what they want and like everything working out and like those guys are very, very vulnerable because they don't have that immunity to it, that immunity that's built up. So if you have that immunity, appreciate that too, So anyway, so let's go to the other aspects of open relationships. So in every relationship, one person is more attractive than the other, period. Okay. So usually when one person will let the other person be sexually active with somebody else, the reason is because they know they're not attractive enough for that person. And so they're going to allow the other person to do something so that they can keep them. That's basically what's going on. That's a major dynamic in open relationships, although nobody ever talks about it. It's the guy's like, the girl's too hot. So it'll happen with an older guy. So the guy's like, say 60, and he's got himself a 25-year-old girl, and she's very attractive. He's got money, or whatever it is that makes him attractive. It could be a number of things, charisma, fame, whatever. He's got it, okay, and he's got this girl, and she's drilling him, no problem, everything's good. And then she wants to go out, right? She wants to have an open relationship. So the problem here is that the guy needs to understand that although he is very attractive to a lot of women, essentially this woman's done with him. And kind of only pain and misery are going to be next. Because when women turn, when they are very sold on a guy or very into something, and then they turn, it's kind of like when you watch a Disney movie and it turns out, instead of the prince, it turns out totally different. Like European movies, right? The fantasy just gets destroyed in the end. And there is something of a vindictiveness for these type of women. Because they think, I got this guy, we're in this thing, it's so hot. And then when it turns, it's like they're very let down by him. They don't realize that it's just like a dynamic that's going to happen with any guy. Logically they know that, but emotionally they feel like, fuck this guy. I'm going to fuck girls and make him jealous. I put up with all this shit. And she's going to just rake you over the coals. There is nothing good for you at this point. If you're dating above your rank in many ways, okay, and that's the problem with this, is like, if you have a lot of money, in some societies, that makes you super attractive. But once a girl has a lot of money, okay, whether you've been married long enough that she can take it, or now you guys together have grown so much money together that she doesn't need it anymore, right? So that can change. Another thing can change is that you might be a famous guy who becomes less famous, right? And then all of a sudden, the groupie feeling is gone. Now she sees you as this guy just playing like shitty gigs, and like, of course, having a couple of groupies, but it's not the same as when you were, headlining shit, right? So that's another thing that would cause her to suddenly lose attraction, want to go into an open relationship. She might have already used up her youth and know that you're kind of the best thing for her, but your value has dropped in general. Now, of course, your value always drops with a specific woman over time anyway. So it's a kind of a combination. It's a double whammy. She gets hit with the fact that your career is not as good, your investments have gone down, the economy's gone down, not as many girls are knocking on the door, maybe you got fat, like there's a lot of things that could happen. And then combined with, just being with you all the time, you get used to it. She's used to whatever you have, whatever your body's like, and whatever it is, if it's good or bad, she knows, she's used to it. So in that situation, I would have to say, definitely don't do it. Like, here's the way to look at it. You're a guy, you're dating above, you've got something that brings in much more attractive girls than you to the outside world, okay? Whatever it is. Now, when she loses interest, which is basically what I'm talking about, the way to think about it is this. Is just think, you got to think to yourself, I won. You know what I mean? Let's say she's 25 and you're 65. You're like, dude, I've been with this girl for 3 years. Like, I had 3 great years with this girl. I won. She's so hot and young. And now she wants to fly. Good for her. You know what I mean? Like, no hard feelings. Like, I won. I hope that even though I kind of wanted it to hang around for longer, I hope she does well. And this is what I always say. I always hope them to do well. I'm like, hey, I hope that me being part of your life made your life better, But I can see that it's over. And she might say, no, it's not over. And I would be like, I really would be like, you know what? It's not about open relationships. It's that you have lost attraction to me. When did you do that? When did it happen? And I try to figure out the date. Because again, you got to put your ego aside if you want to learn, right? And then just try to find out. Be really kind and loving, and just say, I understand. It's over. I understand that the feeling is not there. Because I don't want a relationship with no feeling, right? That's fucking ridiculous, right? Especially when you used to have it. It's just like totally ridiculous. It's like going to a restaurant, there's no food anymore. Like, you just keep going there. Or a car in your driveway with no engine. You like that car, you love that car, you rode it for years. Now you're going to go sit in the driveway. You're like, no, the car didn't go anywhere. There's no restaurant, there's no food in the restaurant, and in this case, the relationship's over. So I would just kind of take a breath, maybe go to the bathroom, think about it and say, you know what? Feel your gut feeling and say, you know what? It's over. This girl's trying to be nice, or she's not trying to be nice. Whatever it is she's trying to do, kind of get your gut feeling on that too. And let's say she's trying to be nice and she's just like, basically like, let's have an open relationship, and like, she might be like trying to like spice it up so that you can stay together. And it might not be for your money. She might already have money. It just might be more convenient or whatever. But see, that's not enough either. Convenience is not enough for me. I don't want it because it's convenient. So I would say, look, here's what I would say. I'd say, look, I really cared about you. And I really enjoyed our time. And I really appreciate all the time we had. I know you're very young and beautiful. And I want the best for you. Like I appreciate your time. And I can sense that it's kind of over for you. And she'd be like, no, but I still. And I would say, you deserve better and I deserve better than that. We both deserve better than that. Like I want you to go spread your wings, go do your thing, and just enjoy your life. Your feeling is over. Whatever we had is over. Maybe my value dropped, whatever, maybe we got too comfortable, whatever the reason. It's kind of like that song, It's Too Late, Joni Mitchell. It's too late. Just listen to that song. And you just realize that sometimes it's just too late. It's too late. Accept it. Just accept it. And you can even have a discussion about it. Like I've had times where I like laugh with a girl about this. Because girls are really surprised when guys can handle these discussions. Because most guys are so sensitive and so their self-esteem is so weak. They're like a fucking, they're like a paper tiger, right? And she does one little thing. He's like, he's just like, I can handle it. I'm like, you know what? She lost interest, she lost traction. That happens. That definitely fucking happens, right? And there you go, right? There you go. It happens to everybody. And like I say, like we all have to accept realities of life, right? So I accept it. For me, I accept it sooner rather than later. And also I know is that I'm attractive. I can go get more. And if you're not attractive, that doesn't make, seriously, straight up, if you're not attractive to women, that doesn't, okay, let's say a guy is very unattractive. And he's above his, let's say he's lost all his money. That's a good example. So the guy's like 65, used to be a multi-billionaire, lost everything, all went bankrupt. Now he's old, he hasn't stayed in shape, he's lost his teeth, he's not looking good. And he has a very hot girl who kind of stuck with him through that, but she's done, she's over. Even if that's you really have to take the same attitude. Because I care about you. Because if you really have lost your value, just suck it up and just move on. Just being attractive and having value to women, it's not everything. There's a lot more to life. Like really, there's so many cool things to do in life. Like you can you can totally change your life, where you live, new friends, new hobbies. You can totally do, there's so much cool shit that you've been missing because you've been in one situation, basically, not able to do other situations. And now that you're, listening to this channel, you've like got all these new vistas, new ideas, new options. Trust me, like there's all kinds of new shit you can do. As soon as you let her go and accept that you're not attractive, for example, I'm telling you, you will have a sense of euphoria. Because you'll be like, man, Ronin is right. The truth is so fucking awesome. It's like just feel energy in your veins. Because this is what men do. Men accept things. Men make smart decisions. Men move on. Men make the best with what they have. Men have wisdom and able to make priorities. And like I said, you still got time left on this planet. And that time is valuable. Very, very valuable. It might be different than what you expected. You might have different, you know what I mean? Like it might be totally different than what you planned. But you will be pleasantly surprised. There's a lot to do in life, So let it go, move on, no matter what your situation, right? Don't let her bringing up an open relationship be a wake-up call that it's over in that situation. Because you're in a relationship, you're monogamous, she's suddenly saying open. What she's saying is either I can't admit that it's over, I want to break up, but I want to hurt you on the way out, or I want to keep you because it's comfortable. or I don't want to, my family to think this way about me. So even though I have no attraction, it's all negative. It's all not good. It's not good for her either. So by you being decisive, I don't know if she will come back and thank you, but often it's the case. Women will say, thank you for letting me go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you let me go. I knew you could have kept me, but you let me go. And it's like, yeah, I want the best for you. I want the best for girls. Like, that's what people understand. Like, just because you don't want to get married, just because you don't accept being a simp doesn't mean you can actually be a very fucking loving guy. Very loving guy. Maybe even more loving because you kind of accept the harsh, bumps in this rocky road of life. And you know who you are. And you can be trusted, right? Because you know the dynamics. You know the dynamics of what's going on. And you know who you are. You know what kind of dog you are, right? Not because you decided to be that dog. You didn't go girl find it. No, man. You figured life out, looked at all the molecular structures around, and you realized, oh my God, my structure is, this. Oh my gosh, it just never dawned on me, and then and that becomes so fundamental. And you know what I mean? You are a man who can be trusted, right? Don't be a guy. A lot of guys, they think if I make a decision and I stick with it, that's the same as finding your true north. It's not. It's a fake life. It's a fake life. You don't need to be disciplined when you know yourself. Because everything will be obvious to you. You will know why you're doing things. It's a really a beautiful thing, this journey I'm talking about. The dynamics of what's going on. Okay, so let me go to some other things. Open relationships. One of the other dynamics is, okay, so here's a sex story. So I had a girlfriend. She was exactly my type. Don't want to tell you exactly what it was, but she was totally my type. Like this girl, like when I even think of this girl, my dick's just she was just the type that I just, it was just like such a, all the time. Like I just was, I don't know how can I put this into words? Yeah, anyway, with her, I was so fucking turned on all the time. And I'm not saying that like as a guy who didn't have options. I had so many girls. And at the same time, this particular girl, it was just like, I don't know what else we had, but as far as hard dick and wet pussy going on, and ass and mouth and shit, and just like really animal sex, we had it all the time. And she had it with me. It was a mutual thing. And I think you'll often find that when you find you can't really have one person in this case. You can't have a nuclear hot relationship with one person. It has to be that rare situation where you both totally turn each other on. Otherwise, there can't be a fusion going on. The atoms don't split apart the right, you know what I mean? It's not hot enough. To get that hot, you both got to have it. Now, it doesn't last, but at some point. So anyway, with this girl, we were like this at this point. And by the way, it didn't last. It lasted for, I don't know how long exactly, but I'm going to say a year and a half, 2 years at this red hot level. So anyway, she got a job in a 5-star hotel. And she called me up one day. And she calls me, she's drunk. And she's like, she never drank with me. I never saw her drunk, never even saw her drink. But this time she calls me drunk. And she's like, I'm at the hotel. She's like, basically what happened was she got a job at this 5-star hotel, which was a great job for her. She was very excited about it. And so they gave her a room. So she had a free room because that was one of the things they did with the new workers. They gave them a night in the hotel so that they could kind of know what it's like to be a guest, order food, and kind of test out the hotel from a guest perspective, right? So that's part of the training, right? The final training was guest perspective thing. So she calls me. She got a room. And she's like, but there was 2 girls. There was a roommate. And she wasn't there. She was like drunk. So she goes, she was 20, by the way, because she went to a 2-year school. So she had finished high school. She went to a 2-year junior college. She got this job. So now she's 20 years old. And she calls me. She's like, it's you guys. She goes, come and fuck me. She's like, I got a room. I got a job. And I'm like, no way, you got the job. I'm like, it's crazy. She's like, come and fuck me. She hangs up. So I'm like, oh my God. Because this girl didn't talk like this. I mean, we fucked like that, but she never talked like that. So anyway, I zipped over there on my motorcycle. And sure enough, it was one of the hottest sessions of my entire life. Like I worked, you talk about, what do they call that? Like breaking back? What do they call that? There's a word for that. Anyway, we absolutely set the world on fire that night. It was pounding like you cannot believe. In every room of that fucking hotel room, in the bathroom, we broke the mirror. We actually broke the mirror because it was so hot. I was like literally throwing her and firing her, and she's like literally like just, I mean, like she was very aggressive with me. Like both of us were just taking it to the, I don't think I've ever had more wild sex than I had that day, honestly. It lasted for a long time. Let's say an hour and a half of just absolutely animal sex. And you don't repeat these things, right? These are like one-time things. Like both of us were just so hot. The whole room was destroyed. Like everything's on the ground. All the blankets are everywhere. There's juice everywhere. The mirror is broken. I look at her and she's like absolutely satisfied. And I looked at her and I'm just like, oh my goodness. That was the hottest sex. The most, I don't know if it was the hottest sex. It was the most physically active sex I've ever had, before or since. And we're laying there totally satiated, like absolutely done. We just did it one time. That was it. And then her roommate comes back. And her roommate had heard us because she had come to the room and heard this like massive grunting and wild sex. So she had been kept, I didn't know this at the time, but she had kept coming to the door and then leaving and then coming back. And so finally she comes in, it's like 3 a.m. or something. And she was mesmerized. She looked at the room, she looked at me. I was naked, I was laying there. And she was on the other bed. It was like two single beds, like right next to each other. So me and Yuka are on one bed. She's on the other bed, like super close to me, like a meter away. And she's absolutely staring at me. Like eyes open, just looking at me, just staring at me. And then Yuka's like, she's like, why don't you fuck her too? And that's kind of a form of open relationship. So in this sense, you have a girl who is very sexually satisfied with you. She's not playing any tricks here. There's nothing going on. She's not trying to do anything. One, she was probably curious, a little bit bi-curious, I'm guessing. You know, there was a little bit of her that was interested in girls probably, or that particular girl for some reason. But I think a lot of it was, and this is just my take on it, is that she looked at the other girl's eyes and she was looking at me like you could not believe the look of lust in her eyes. I mean, I don't even know what that look is. I've never seen it, that look. This was some kind of animal look that this girl had. And she was offering this other girl. And I think what it goes back to one person is more sexually attracted than the other. And that's why people choose an open relationship. So what Yuka was saying, Yuka knew I had a lot of other girls. That's one thing. Because I had been very open about it. And she said, this guy, at this point in his life, like, is just too hot. I can't keep this guy. The only way I can keep this guy is if I feed the lion. Like if this guy is a lion and I got to keep this guy fed or he's going to be fucking gone. Because if the other girl was 22, right? She was same age. You know, if girls are looking at this guy like this, I'm best off letting him fuck her. Like I kind of am stupid not to. That's the best. That was what I believe was a calculation. A little bit bi-curious, you know, kind of open-minded type. A little bit post-orgasm, whatever kind of feeling, you know, and a little bit like this guy is impossible to cage. Better off letting him do it rather than having him do it behind my back. I think that was her decision. And what was funny about that too is I was so satiated with the other girl, with Yuka. I was so satisfied that I looked at her and I thought, this is such a tragedy. Like if I would have known an hour before that I was going to fuck her roommate with her, I wouldn't have like used everything. But I was done. I was done. I was done. I had painted the picture. You know, when Jesus, when he got killed, he said, it is finished, right? It is finished. It was finished. I was completely satiated. Even with the prospect of ramping up to another level, it was 3 a.m. I was tired. This was very unexpected. Maybe if I had like another 5 minutes and like a chocolate bar, I would have like changed my mind, but I went to sleep. I went to sleep and I woke up in the morning. Here was the interesting thing. When I woke up, first thing I thought, I'm going to fuck them now. You know, those girls, no way. They already had been dressed. I had been sleeping for a long time and they had already dressed. They had their makeup on, they had uniforms on. There was no sexual vibe at all anymore. Completely new. Sun was blazing in the room and they were going to work. And I knew that the smart thing to do was just give her a kiss and leave. And that's what I did. You know, I was, you know, you got to know as a guy, you got to know when it's on, when it's not. It was not on. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, obviously they were still turned on. I mean, it was fucking hot, right? The look in her eye was insane. But at the same time, they're Japanese. They got to go to work. You know what I mean? And it wasn't, no longer was it nuclear fusion. The nuclear fusion reaction had stopped. Maybe I could have gotten going the next night, no problem. But there was no next night because they only had one night. So what I say to you is, if you're a guy or a girl, like obviously girls and guys listen to this, and you have somebody who's so much more sexually attractive than you, that you have to let them go out, otherwise they won't stay with you, that would be the only reason why I would recommend an open relationship. Usually in a girl's case, like if you got a guy that's like so hot that you cannot keep this guy, and the reason why I say girl's case, here's the reason, is there's a wisdom to it. In history, there's always been men with harems, always, and basically no harems for women. It is a natural state of affairs. You see it in the animal world, you see it in the human world. You see it with famous people, famous guys, they'll have like kids with many different people. You see it today, it's common. But what guys don't realize it doesn't always have to do with money and fame. Some guys just got charisma and it just fucking works out for them. But whatever the thing is that when a girl realizes she got a guy that's, you know, he's a horse that cannot be tamed at this moment, she would do it, but for two reasons. One is because she can't stop him, right? And she wants to stay with him, right? So two. And then also, any smart woman knows what I said earlier, is that his charisma might fade, his money might fade, her interest in him might fade, something might fade and change. So it's just temporary. You know, a quote-unquote open relationship is not permanent. It's not like a mountain, it's not like a building. She's just saying, like, right now, I can't hold this guy. And I'm going to give him some meat, you know, this other girl. And I'm going to do some stuff with her in order to satiate him and make him think I'm the best girl for him. Like, no matter what happens, I'm the cool chick. Not only am I sexy, I love him, and I'm a cool chick. And that is the kind of girl that a guy will stay with, actually. A guy who's very, very hot will stay with a girl like that. Because not only is she sexy, not only does she satisfy him, not only is she hot, not only is she young, not only is she open-minded, but she cares about him. And I would say that these type of girls, this is my take, they tend to have a sense of humor about life. Really. Because you got to have a sense of humor to accept being in a harem. You got it. Because it's like, oh man, no one told me about this. But you know what? This can work. Maybe for a short period of time. You maybe, you know, it's just like that I said in the chat in Tyrone or temp jobs. Everything is not permanent. Nothing is permanent. She's just doing something right now to hold you. And it's a rational decision for her. Now, for a guy, so for you listening, should you, if the girl is way hotter than you, accept an open relationship ever? What are the dynamics? I would say two things. Like, if you're the same age, I would say no, don't accept it. Because the girl's hotter than you. She's going to be hotter than you for a long time. It's going to tear your heart up. It's going to break your heart. Now, some guys can't let go, and they would rather get destroyed by her than let her go in the hopes that they're going to enjoy these last few months with her. If that's your calculation, and believe me, a lot of guys want to put their head in the lion's mouth. If you want to put your head in the lion's mouth, put your head in the lion's mouth. I've definitely done this kind of thing. Not this exact thing, but putting my head in the lion's mouth, I've done it many times. Even when I know better, I'm just like, I just have to do it. Put my head in the mouth and deal with the consequences. So if that's you, no judgment. Put your head in the mouth and just know you're going to get destroyed. But it's not going to end soon, and your feelings are not going to be good. You're going to be torn apart. It's going to be brutal. If you really don't know how to end a relationship, and this is the only way is to get destroyed with a girl like this, sometimes a guy's just, there's that song, When a Man Loves a Woman, from the 60s, right? It's like sometimes when a man loves a woman, his only way out is destruction of himself. Like, and he can pick himself up again. But he cannot let that bond go. The bond is so deep and so strong and so real that his only way to break the bond is to let her destroy him. And then he can summon up the courage to let it go and then to move on with his life. If that's what you got to do, do it. But other than that, and you're the same age, don't do it. It's a trap. It's a very big trap. Your guts are going to be torn out. You're going to be left in the street bleeding. She's going to be happy and smiling with a new guy, riding his cock. It's going to be brutal. There's nothing good about it. Do not do it. Do not do it. Do not. The only reason why you would, here's another reason. And this is what my mentor Dawn used to tell us. My mentor Dawn would tell us to do it. Like basically let our girls fuck another guy. And the reason why is because Dawn was a total alpha. Because he said, guys are so sappy. He called it sappy. And so weak. We call it like simp, right? He called it sappy. Guys are so sappy that they need to be destroyed in order to realize the girl's not the fantasy girl they think. So he actually engineered it so that the guys that kind of listened to him and followed him, his listeners, he would tell one of them to go fuck the other guy's girlfriend in front of him. And the guy would be like, what? Or not even in front of him, not necessarily in front of him, but basically he'd say, you need to learn this girl's not an angel. He would say, he wouldn't do it tricky. He'd say, look, Steve's going to come over and fuck your girl. And later on, you can fuck his girl sometime. And I'd be like, what? And he's like, he said, you're too in love with her. You're not thinking rationally. You're not thinking you're thinking emotionally. By Steve fucking her, you're going to realize she's just like she is with you, with every guy. She's not special. You need to move on. You need to let this bond go. It's all fake. She fucks Steve. That's going to teach you what you need to know to keep that emotional distance, right? He always talked about emotional distance. And he did the same thing with money. He was wealthy. But he would say, he would go to Vegas and just throw money on the table and say, look, it's just money. He's like, release your emotional bond to money and women. Get rational. And one of the key things is letting go of this fantasy that some girl's special. And so he thought it was good to do that because he knew it would tear a guy up so much that it would allow him to have a new perspective on girls and realize, and then, like I said, that's how I got red pill, was watching women screw my brains out when I knew they had, relationships and stuff. And I was like, how can they do that? These are good girls. These are the girls that the cheerleaders, the prom queens. And they're in perfect, and they're being total, I can't use the words, with me. And I was like, that just red pilled me because I was like, oh my God. So it wasn't my girl doing things to other girls, guys that red pilled me. It was other girls doing things to me. And a lot of times I didn't even know. They'd fuck my brains out, literally, whatever the fuck I wanted. And then finally they would tell me a month later, oh, by the way, I'm married. I'd be like, what? You didn't tell me, I don't remember what I said, but that's what I thought. It's what the fuck? This girl didn't even tell me, right? Or I have a boyfriend. What? I was thinking how could this girl who is beautiful, is smart, is educated, is the prom queen, has the body, has everything, has the family, has the boyfriend, has everything, and just lies and cheats like crazy, Because a lot of the girls that I had sex with that were married, I didn't know. You guys don't realize that. Guys Guys think, just like I started this podcast with, guys think that if a girl says, let's have an open relationship, they think she's telling the truth. She's got some other plan. There's some other thing going on. You got to find out what it is. And when you have sex with a woman, you don't know if she's married. You don't know if she's in a relationship. Even if you ask her, you don't know. You could have had sex with tons of married girls and you never knew it. That's how good women are at keeping a secret. They tell you on a need-to-know basis. So this idea that guys that mess, it's usually much more complicated. It's often like the girl will fuck your brains out, does everything with you, and then she's like, oh, by the way, I got to go home. My husband's coming home. It's like, what? And then by then you've already developed a bond with her, and then it's like really complicated, right? So don't take things for granted. Don't dig under the surface, right? Find more out before you jump in any of these decisions, whether you're less or more sexually attractive. Oh, one last scenario I thought of. If you're older with a young girl, she wants to go out, it's up to you. If you're really old and she's really young, you might decide, let's say you're 75, right? And she's 30. And she came to you for whatever reason when she was 25 and you were 65. And then now you're 70. I don't know for sure because I've never been that age. But I've seen older guys that don't really care. Maybe there's something that changes when you become 70 or something, where you really don't care that much anymore. I don't know. But if you're in your 70s or whatever, you're like so old that you don't care, then you have to decide again, because the whole reason why you wouldn't get into an open relationship with a girl or let her cheat or you cheat is because it bothers you, right? If it like literally doesn't bother you at all, then take that into consideration. So if it's because you're so old and she's so young that you're just happy, she cooks, the house is nice, you're satisfied, she's good for you, she brings you to the hospital, whatever it is that you feel like, hey, this is pretty good, you no longer are competing with the younger guys. I don't know, those could be possible scenarios where a guy would be like, yeah, whatever, if that's how you feel, then take your own feelings into consideration. But if you're younger, no fucking way. Don't assume that you're not going to care in the future just because you don't care now, because you will care. Trust me. Your feelings are going to be super strong. Even if this night when you're drinking and you're turned on, you don't care, you better watch your ass before you make these. These are gut-wrenching. These are things that can destroy you, man. Never forget it. These dynamics can tear you apart with regret for the rest of your life, and embarrassment and regret and pain. So be very careful. Even if you think you agree, take your time. I think you're getting my meaning. My meaning is basically, don't do it right away. Don't think about it, and be careful, even if you're talking about with somebody else. Because look, here's the bottom line. Here's the final thing. Is, man, you can get whatever you want in life. Man, you're more attractive than you think. Don't fucking just take these shitty fucking dog treats off the ground. You can be eating fucking filet mignon. You are a cool guy, man. You're learning. That knowledge, that confidence is making you into a different man than you were. You probably realize that. You're like, man, I'm growing. I'm becoming. Well, guess what? You're also becoming more attractive. And you're upping your value in life. So you're going to become more valuable. So don't take, just because you would have done it when you're 18, don't take dog scraps. You had a girlfriend and now all of a sudden she's going to go do, fuck that. Like, no way, Or she's going to play some game on you. Like, oh, you fuck this girl and then next week she's, oh, I'm going to fuck this guy. Well, you can, you did it, so it's fair. And you're like, wait, I guess it is fair. Because you walked into it. You got to know that could happen, right? That's why you say no. That's why you find out more, Because you're like, wait. This is a totally new thing here. What are the dynamics here? Now that you've heard all the different scenarios I can think of when it comes to quote unquote open relationships, you'll probably have a good idea when something happens to you. What is the reason? What should you do? And if I could go back in time, I think I probably would have eaten like a donut or something and just did the massive threesome with Yuka and her friend, right? I just really was too tired. And that's okay, because it's still a great memory. Great memory. That fiery look. Whoa. Unrequited look. Whoa. That was hot. Oh, that was hot. And my girlfriend's look too, kind of like, do you want to fuck her? She said, you should fuck her. Something like that. And I'm like, oh my God. She never used words like that. She always talked very clean, right? And I was like, because I just literally, there's no other word for what we did before that. And she's like, there it is. The best breakdown I could possibly do. If you do have questions, if there's another scenario you didn't think of, if you learned something, comment below, because I need to know. I need to know if you learned anything and what you learned, because otherwise I'm talking into a fucking black hole here. You guys think I know how you react. You think I know how I don't know. You got to tell me, tell me so that I know, so that I can keep making good stuff, right? If I don't know how I'm just speaking out. I got to know there's a transistor out there reading it. And what are you hearing, right? What are you learning? What questions do you have? This allows me to say, ooh, I missed that part, or ooh, I never thought of that. I didn't know that existed, right? And then I can go in, I can make something, I can, you know what I mean? In the future, right? And also I can learn, because you guys have a lot to share. So I really appreciate everybody's comments in that way too. I learn a lot from you guys, All right. Thanks for listening, guys.